fallen into this trap, and I know a lot of, people say, oh, it's not from Guerlain. Oh my goodness, guys, I fell into a bit of a hole.
These are some fragrances that I really don't wear. I'm not calling these fragrances bad or anything.
Guys, how many of you have bought a fragrance, you've sprayed it a few times, you have it in your collection, and then it's just gathered dust over time? There's been a few of you who kind of like resonate with me when it comes to that, where maybe we have slightly bigger collections. I wouldn't say that I have a massive collection. This topic is going to be quite interesting because it's based off of your guys' comments, and it's talking about fragrances that we don't wear anymore. Why do we not wear them? Is there a reason behind it? And which ones in my collection are ones that I wear a little bit less often? So if you guys want to reflect with me, if you want to kind of go into this subject and maybe, react to some TikTok videos as well, just keep watching and we'll just jump straight in. So I guess like the main points, and we'll run through with it like with various different TikTok videos and also examples in my own collection. There are some fragrances, and I know that you guys will be able to resonate, where they are a little bit more artistic, a little bit more out there, and as a result, like for day-to-day wear, they might be a little bit trickier to pull off, whether those note profiles are a little bit more unique, whether you're most of the time in work. Most of us do have a lot of work throughout the day, and you're around other people, so you don't necessarily want to offend other people. I also find when you do have a bigger collection, and I know a lot of you guys will resonate with me because you've also commented the same, where you're almost shifting your collection constantly. You're trying to give the other ones a bit more love, but the reality is you do get a little bit more not nose blind, I guess, but like a bit more fatigued, maybe collection overload, where you have all of these different fragrances and you're a little bit overwhelmed to think, am I really giving love to all of these? Which ones are my favorites? And after some time you get a little bit lazy. This is what I do, by the way. I'm a lazy human being. I'll get lazy and I will just reach for the ones that I'm comfortable with, that I'm just regularly using on a day-to-day basis, or even seasonality wise. I mean, we will talk about all of those aspects. So before we jump in properly, if you guys have any in your collection that you maybe don't reach for as much for whatever reason, let us know down in comments down below. I'm really intrigued to see which one it is, whether you would keep it or whether you'd sell it, and yeah, we'll just react to some videos.
These are some fragrances that I really don't wear. I'm not calling these fragrances bad or anything. I just don't really reach for them. Maison Margiela Jazz Club. This scent is so nice, so masculine, but the only downside, performance sucks and it's very, very hard to wear. You can't really just slap this on and go run errands or go to the gym. Let's be honest, how often are we actually going for date night? That's what Jazz Club is really suitable for. Office for Men by Jeremy Fragrance. What's amazing about this is the performance is nuclear. It's very, very strong. People say this is like a fresh and citrus clean scent, but all I smell is straight amber. Everything about it feels cheap. It's so overpriced. Initio Narcotic Delight. Everything about this is heavenly. It's so good. It's so strong. It's this cherry, boozy tobacco scent. But just like Jazz Club, it's very, very hard to wear. You can't really wear it to school or the office, or like I said earlier, errands or the gym. But damn, it smells so good.
First off, I will say I appreciate his honesty. Like, I always find it really funny when content creators make videos like this. So whether that's like decluttering or, fragrances that transparently they just don't wear as much anymore, I think automatically people assume you lied to us. And there will be some people who are like that. That's just human beings in general. But for the majority of the time, and a lot of you guys also who have collections, there are reasons as to why we don't wear them as much. Like the first reason, I guess, what I wanted to cover is seasonality. Like what he said, with Jazz Club, finding the right occasion to wear that specific fragrance. Now, there's a lot of them in my collection that are specific to seasons, whether that's winter, autumn, summer, spring, etc. There are a lot heavier ones where, whenever you do find the occasion to wear them, they will be like a one-off occasion, and when you do wear it, you have like the best time and you get a lot of use out of it. So one that I wanted to feature, which by the way is probably one of my most beautiful fragrances in my collection, and I've recommended it to many people, men and women included, and they've bought bottles and they've absolutely loved it as a result, is a masterpiece of a fragrance. However, Is it easy to wear? Not necessarily, and that is because it is a heavy oud, chocolatey, almost gourmand style of fragrance. So this one is called Rare Edition Fidelis, or Edition Rare Fidelis, I should say, from Histoire de Parfum. Now, Histoire de Parfums have some really interesting fragrances. They're a lot more experimental when it comes to their fragrances. So when we talk about niche houses, this is what I would consider a niche house. So a lot of their fragrances are based around books and stories, and you know, almost they are like little book covers in of themselves, and they all have and carry their own story. So this is one that carries its own story. It's a raspberry, chocolatey, coffee oud fragrance. It's honestly one of the best oud fragrances that you can get. It's on the border of animalic, but not quite going into that super animalic territory, whilst being very smoky, woody, slightly sweet with that raspberry like fruited type of note that's going on, and then a really big hint of coffee, which adds this other element to it, which makes it all smell a little bit more gourmand. So it kind of has all of these elements going on in it, and it's such a shame because it is such a gorgeous fragrance, and the longevity on this is unbelievable. Like, the projection isn't amazing, but will it last on your skin? 100%. Leading back to what he was saying, I think a massive part as to why I don't particularly wear this fragrance a lot or as much as I should is down to it being so rich, so full-bodied. I do sometimes layer this with other fragrances, and I do start to wear it a bit more often, but particularly because we are now into the spring and summer months, it will be so rare for me to wear this on an evening. And if I will wear it on an evening, I'll probably layer it with something a little bit light so it's not as dense and dark. However, this in the winter time is beautiful. I don't think you can get much better than this. It's warm, it's seductive, it's sexy with that coffee note as well, and it's, you know, it's very layered. That is one of the major reasons as to why I don't wear particular fragrances. It is down to the seasonality, and it's also down to the occasion. So one that is a major player in that is Edition Rare Fidelis. We're next going to watch this video from this lady that I just came across on my TikTok. I searched Discontinued Fragrances and her video popped up, and I thought it was so reminiscent to what we will discuss and one of the fragrances that I do have here. So let's just hear what she says. I'm really intrigued to see kind of like what her angle is on it, and then we'll, you know, go into it.
This is part 2 and why we'll never have any good fragrance from Tom Ford again. And why it's all your fault. Picture it, 2016, it's summertime. Tom Ford launches 2 incredible fragrances. One of them is a little more basic, coconutty, sunscreeny, kind of a floral. And the next is a lily tuberose chestnut cream. Just absolutely stunning, evocative, in-your-face fragrance called Orchid Soleil. Around this time, the very popular Soleil Blanc came out. It's a good fragrance, but it's no Orchid Soleil. This thing is incredible. It was a banger, and on top of it, it was in the traditional collection with the original Black Orchid, and so the price point on this, fabulous. Now, around this time, the very popular Soleil Blanc came out as well. And it was the favorite. It was a fan favorite. And that's because those people didn't get it. They didn't get how great this fragrance was. It was ahead of its time. It was the most gorgeous solar floral that you've ever smelled. And people would come out and say, it smells like tortilla chips. Shut up. It didn't smell like tortilla chips. It smelled like a beautiful, stunning white floral bouquet that's creamy, but also has patchouli, and there was this beautiful bitter orange in the beginning, and it stuck to you like nobody's business. Stuck to you like Black Orchid does. Phenomenal. Look at this bottle. It's torn to pieces. And the only reason I'll forgive you guys is because I had a coworker at the time that said, hey, I'll trade you a fragrance for an Orchid Soleil, so I have a backup bottle of this. But I'm still irritated that nobody got it. And if you get a chance to get your hands on this, there are bottles on eBay, and I highly recommend it. It's unlike...
Now, granted, this is not always the case, by the way. Just because a fragrance is discontinued doesn't mean it's down to its popularity. doesn't mean that it's always necessarily down to its sales. It can also be down to the actual very ingredients themselves. So a lot of ingredients down to, if there are kind of regulations, sometimes the raw materials aren't deemed safe anymore, or, you know, actually getting them can be a bit of a struggle depending on what manufacturers there are out there in the world. So there are various different reasons as to why fragrance houses discontinue fragrances. Now, I completely agree with her. Tom Ford is probably the worst for it, and there are so many fragrances that I used to love from the Tom Ford brand that are unfortunately completely discontinued, which is so sad. To be honest with you, I might even list like different pictures of the ones that I'm thinking of all of the different discontinued Tom Ford fragrances that are nowhere to be seen anymore. It's a very, very sad world. But the one fragrance that I do have still within my collection, there are other ones as well, which has been discontinued and will be one that I, again, do not wear for that very same reason, is Champagne Absolute from Tom Ford. Now, when I first got this bottle, I was absolutely head over heels, obsessed with it. I was wearing it like an absolutely crazy woman, to the point where I was constantly getting compliments from this. This is a beautiful yellow floral, chestnut, boozy, warm fragrance. It's such an unusual fragrance. It's probably one of the most unique that you can get out there, and honestly, it just was heaven. It still is heaven in a bottle. And unfortunately, as time has gone on, Tom Ford has discontinued more and more fragrances, this being one of them. And it's such a shame, because it's always the cult favorites that seem to be discontinued. And this is why I say I don't think it's necessarily always down to popularity. I think it's also down to various other different things as well. So the reason why I don't necessarily spray this as often as I should anymore, and this is why, going back to the conversation of what you guys deem as fragrances that you don't wear anymore, one of the reasons is because this has been discontinued, and quite frankly, I'm not prepared in spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds to rebuy a bottle of this on eBay. I'd rather just have this in my collection for as long as physically possible without it being ruined. I know there is a shelf life on, you know, on fragrances, but I will try to store it the best way that I can, and in the meantime, I can still enjoy it on an occasion. And it's just one of those fragrances that, you know, it's sad that they've discontinued, but that is a reason why I don't wear it. So we'll move on to a different subject now. I kind of want to watch this video from a guy talking, again, very transparently about, you know, his fragrances that he doesn't wear anymore, and then we'll move on to a different topic. So we'll just react with this one.
Here are some fragrances in my collection that don't get as much love anymore. Okay, that does not mean that I do not like them. All of the perfumes you see behind me are in my collection for a reason, and that is because I really enjoy all of them. I wouldn't have them in my collection if I didn't enjoy them. I have sold a lot of fragrances because I did not like them. Sunklosion, probably a surprise because there's such a big dent in here, but this was one of my daily fragrances about a year ago. I love this stuff. I do wear it on the odd occasion. Tropical mango, guava, and coconut water. It's a really, really nice fragrance. I just don't reach for it as much anymore. Amor Cafe by Mancera. I own 2 Mancera fragrances, and of the 2, I reach for Tonka Cola a lot more than this. I don't really wear this one that much. It is a very nice fragrance. When I first smelled it, I thought it was gorgeous. It smells like burnt brown sugar on top of vanilla ice cream with like this caramel drizzled on top. Really, really nice stuff. It doesn't get as much love as what it used to. Auto Parisi Toroni. Now, I'm not going to lie, I do try to wear this sometimes, but most of the time I'm at work and I don't really want to offend everyone in a block's radius, so that's the only reason I don't reach for this one, but this is some hectic stuff.
What I really liked about his videos, he had various different reasons as to why he doesn't wear those fragrances, and it does seem like he's a bit more of a curator. There's like really different odd ones, and you can see even in the background with his shelves, there's various different ones that it seems like he kind of knows his stuff about fragrances, and he's picked, you know, the ones that he truly loves. And one thing that I wanted to highlight, and thankfully I haven't fallen into this trap, and I know a lot of, you know, people say, oh, you know, it's not it's not the creator's fault, it's not either the consumer's fault either, people just buy what they buy, and I do agree with that. However, there are specific fragrances and specific houses that are pushed on platforms like Insta, like TikTok, etc., even YouTube to a certain extent. Like, for example, I don't particularly love the House of Mancera. There are some that I really like, but there aren't really any bottles that I own, and that's no disrespect, and that's like with every other brand as well. You know, you won't love every single bottle in the house, right? It's just, you know, a fact, and they do have some nice ones. But with Mancera, and with other fragrance houses as well, sometimes they are pushed by content creators because it's almost like a bit of a hype train behind them. And, you know, once one creator gets one, another one gets one. And I don't think it's necessarily PR. I don't even think it's that. I just think it's maybe like a FOMO thing where it's the fear of missing out. And you think, oh my goodness, this is like the next amazing fragrance, and then you blind buy it and then you kind of regret it, and that's why it's just sitting there on the shelf. So that is another reason why, and some of you have said it to me, by the way, whether that's messaging or commenting, that the reason why you have such big collections and you'll have you know, fragrances from other brands is because you would have bought it based on somebody's recommendation and it wasn't quite what you were looking for. And this is the kind of trouble with blind buying. I know some people really love blind buying, and I used to blind buy, guys. We're talking, you know, some years ago. I used to love doing it, and it's just one of those things that you can't necessarily avoid. You know, if you haven't tried the fragrance, you don't know what your reaction will be like, and as a result, it might just be collecting dust towards the back of your collection. So I just thought it was interesting him featuring those specific fragrances. Sunplosion is a beautiful fragrance. I actually agree with him. But again, down to seasonality, even the Auto Paris one, down to the situation. He's just not going to reach for it every single time that he's out and about. So that was a really interesting video. I wanted to feature now, and what I wanted to talk about are fragrances within my collection. This is just me being really stupid, by the way, but I freely admit just me being really silly when it comes to this. I have very special fragrances in my collection, sorry, that not just have been discontinued, but are also collector's items. So one of them is YSL's Manifesto Elixir, or L'Elixir, however you pronounce it. And I used to adore the original Manifesto, so not this like elixir type flanker. Manifesto, the original one, is a lot greener, a lot brighter than this one. This is more of a well, not candied, but like more of a bourbon vanilla. It's also very balsamic. It has like this slight sourness to it. It's really rich. It's indolic. For a designer fragrance, my goodness, guys, when this first launched, this was ahead of its time. It was so beautiful. It really reminds me of a Dior Addict, that style of vanilla, where it's a little bit more balsamic. It has a lot going on to it. And luckily, recently, I was able to acquire this bottle after having, you know, the original Manifesto and then the Elixir version some years before that. And it's one of those fragrances, because I love it so much and because it is a bit of a collector's item, and I have the same in the Shalimar collection with the Millésimes. I don't wear them as often because I think, you know, there will be one occasion where I'll want to wear it and I want to sell it. So as a result, it just collects dust in my collection, which is a bit sad, right? And I have still worn this fragrance and I still really absolutely love it. It's just a case where it is so special that you just don't want to let go of it. And equally, it is almost like a collector's item. And there are plenty of fragrances out there which are collector's specials. Like, there's lots from Guerlain. Oh my goodness, guys, I fell into a bit of a hole some years ago where you know, all of the Shalimars, like the souffle versions, etc., there were specific ones which were discontinued or that were collector's items. I would hunt for hours. I kid you not, on eBay and those types of platforms, because I would literally scroll for hours trying to find these bottles. There was also one from Guerlain, I'll put a picture up here. It was called L'Instant, but it's not the EDT, because that one is sold a lot on eBay because it's a lot more like overproduced. It was the actual parfum version of it that was literally going for hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Like, these collector's items, there is no joke behind it, and Guerlain are a very specific house that has these types of collector's items. So that's why I wanted to feature this one, because I know a lot of you guys might be in the same boat where you've bought fragrances down to their, you know, being very special and unique, and therefore you don't really wear them as often. So anyway, that is Manifesto L'Elixir. We're just going to go through a couple of funny ones that I found on TikTok, kind of leading into the subject of quite expensive fragrances and maybe the reason why we don't wear them as often as we should. Now, I'm super guilty of this, and I know you guys are as well. We will spend hundreds of pounds on specific fragrances and we think to ourselves, we don't really want to be spraying them too often because we don't want to be using them too often because they are so expensive, and we need to get that psychologically out of our heads because we have paid that amount of money for it. We should be, you know, seriously using them. So yeah, we'll just check out a couple of videos, but they are quite funny, to be fair. It's true, the Bond number 9 fragrances are super duper expensive. I mean, there's a lot more expensive houses out there, but particularly in the UK, because they're not really imported very often, because I think they are like a US owned brand, they can be very expensive. And then as a result, when you do get them, you think, oh no, I'm not going to spray it because it cost me this amount of money. And so you're thinking, why am I being silly? So there's another one here as well, we'll watch. True. When you really think about how much it costs per mil, considering they are bigger bottles, you think, why am I overspraying it? Why am I spraying this much of it? And I'll show you guys one particular fragrance, which is one of my most expensive fragrances in my collection. And as a result, I don't wear it too often because I love this fragrance so much, guys. Like, there are no words to describe how beautiful this is. But because it is that beautiful and because it is that expensive, I think to myself, am I really going to be overspraying it and spraying it constantly? Taking it with me. So I have Oud and Santal from Cartier. Now, Cartier have some really gorgeous fragrances. In fact, all of the Oud line from Mathilde Laurent, they are unbelievable. So you have Oud and Rose, Oud and Pink, Oud and Amber, Oud and Santal, Oud Radio, Oud and Musk, I think, and there's like a couple of other ones. This is my favorite alongside Oud Radio and Oud and Amber. These are just, there are no words to say how beautiful they are. This is plum, sandalwood, oh my lord, this is so good. This is what I mean when a fragrance is this beautiful and when it costs this much amount of money. There are very few occasions that you wear it. The few occasions that I do, I need to be going somewhere really beautiful, very, very like high class, worth me wearing something of this status, even though this is just liquid juice at the end of the day. But nonetheless, you kind of want to make the most out of it, right? I think I paid £320 for this bottle. It's a 75 ml. Some of you might say it's not that expensive, but to me, for fragrance, that's quite a lot of money, and as a result, I haven't been really reaching to it very much. And another reason why I don't love wearing this isn't because of the fragrance, it's the packaging. Now, where the atomizer is, it tends to leak, which is a really big red flag of mine, because whenever you are traveling, so I would desperately want to take this with me, but I would need to spray it in a travel spray, and it's just, I don't really want to be doing that with my super expensive fragrances. So I tend to actually sometimes take the full bottles with me, but the problem with doing that is when it shifts a lot, that's when it starts leaking from where the atomizer is. So that's just like a packaging, like a manufacturing fault from Cartier. They do definitely need to sort it out. Hopefully they would have by now. So all of this to say, we'll just wrap up the video here because I feel like I'm rambling quite a lot as I normally do. If you've stuck this long, by the way, well done to you guys, because I wouldn't have been able to. So if you did like this video, please like and subscribe, and as I said, comment down below which fragrances you don't wear very often and why you don't wear them very often. Hope you guys have a beautiful weekend or a beautiful week, whichever day you're watching this, and I will catch you soon. Bye guys.